What is fragrance layering? How you should do it and why you should do it? Well, let's talk about that today. Hey guys, I'm George, the nice merry gentleman, and it's time for your dose of some fragrance content. Today I wanted to talk about something that I've had in my mind for a very long time, but I never ended up making a video about, and that's fragrance layering. It's a fascinating way of discovering, rediscovering fragrances in your collection. It's a fascinating way to actually create something unique, something that's your own creation. And so again, I had this idea for this video for a very long time. I've been thinking about it but never did it really. So today I'm going to take the chance and actually try to talk about fragrance layering. Now, there are countless videos on YouTube and different forums and Fragrantica. People have discussed that for a very long time, so you probably won't hear anything new about a fragrance layering or the way you should layer it, but still, first of all, I'm going to try to cover the basics at the beginning of today's video. Now, first of all, let's try to quickly answer the main question in today's video. What is a fragrance layering? Now, probably most of you know, but still I'm going to define the answer, and that is you taking two or more fragrances from your collection, two or more perfumes that you own or have at your possession at the current time, and just spraying them on top of each other. Basically, that's what fragrance layering means. You're combining two or more fragrances on your skin, on your clothes, on a test strip, or whatever whatever place you're using to test that layering combination. So that's basically what a fragrance layering means. Now, there are a few main ways that people like to layer fragrances, and probably the most common way, the most recognizable way is when you take a fragrance, or two fragrances, and you simply spray them on top of each other on your skin, or again, or clothes, or whatever place you're using to combine the fragrances. That's the most common way to layer fragrances, but you can do it in a few other ways. For example, you can spray fragrances next to each other, not on top of each other, but to close in a close proximity to each other. That also passes as a fragrance layering. And there are people who do it in a completely different way. For example, you can basically split your body into different parts, let's say a right and left part, and you can use one fragrance on your left side, and you can use another fragrance on your right side, or your two different hands. That again passes as fragrance layering, because even if they're not sprayed too close to each other in the air, the smell of the two or more fragrances will end up sort of meshing up together, and again, you can do that way, you can do a fragrance layering. So those are the three main ways that you can layer fragrances. I also want to answer the question why you should try fragrance layering. Well, there are a few reasons. For example, maybe you have a pretty small collection of only 3, 4, 5 fragrances, and sometimes you get bored of wearing the same fragrances all the time. Well, fragrance layering can be a nice way to sort of add depth to your small collection, to experiment, to create something unique that nobody else is pretty much wearing. Another reason is if you are fascinated by fragrances, let's say just like me, that's again another great way to explore some new stuff, and again to create something unique, something that only you're going to smell like, by combining two or more fragrances from your collection. So I think those are the two main reasons why you should go with a fragrance layering. The next thing that I want to quickly talk about is a few simple rules you should follow when you try to layer fragrances. Basically, the best way to layer fragrances is to use two different types of scents. Let's say you want to use something that has a darker, a more serious base, something like Oud Madness from the brand of Fragrance World. This of course is a clone of Oud Maracuja from Maison Crivelli, and this is a leathery agar oud based fragrance that has some fruity sweetness in the opening, has a bit of a floral touch. If you use this in a combination with other fragrances, basically this should be your base scent, or the scent that you're first going to spray on your skin, especially if you're spraying them on top of each other, because this is the most serious fragrance, the darker, the stronger fragrance. This should be your base fragrance, and then you can combine this with something a little bit fresher, something a little bit more fruity. For example, you can layer these two, Vulcan Few and Oud Madness. So you'd spray Oud Madness first, and if you use, let's say, 2 sprays of Oud Madness, you should use at least 2 sprays of the lighter, the fresher fragrance on top of the darker one. At least 2, maybe even more, because this fragrance, Oud Madness, because it's the darker scent, the longer lasting scent, it will stay on your skin and it will overpower the other scent if you don't use the correct amount of sprays with the fresher scent on top of this one. Usually what happens is that if you don't use enough sprays, the darker, the stronger scent will just overpower the weaker, the fresher scent. So what I do normally is, if I combine something that has a darker, leathery, agar oudi dry down, I would use at least like 2 or 3 more sprays of the fresher one on top of the darker one. So if I go with 2 sprays of Oud Madness, then I'll go with 3 or 4 or 5 sprays of Vulcan Few on top of Oud Madness, because that way I can really feel both scents instead of just smelling the stronger one. Another interesting thing is that usually you should combine darker scents with fresher scents, you know, leathery scents with fresher scents, because you can add an additional layer, an additional aspect to the, you know, the more, let's say, the leathery or the woody fragrance, and you can make it fresher. Usually the fresher fragrances, they tend to project a little bit better. Citruses and green notes and floral notes, they tend to be a little bit more diffusive in the air compared to something like agar oud or leather, or you know, woody notes like cedar oud and whatnot. So if you do that, you know, that fresher fragrance which is sprayed on top of the darker one initially will be felt better. It will be the stronger scent, but the more time will pass, the stronger the base fragrance will start to show itself up, and that way, you know, throughout the life of this layering combination, the fragrance, that layering combo, will transform from something fresh and fruity to a mid and then a deep dry down, where you'll get the woody notes, where you'll get the leathery notes. And just as a few quick examples, I'm going to show you a few of the leathering combinations that I've tried lately that I think are interesting. Vulcan Few is an interesting fragrance that actually works pretty well with a lot of other scents. One layering combination that I've tried and that I think comes across very interesting is combining Atlas from the brand of Lattafa, which of course is a clone of Mega Mare, and it's quite a strong fragrance, with Vulcan Few. I use Atlas as the base scent, and then I spray Vulcan Few on top of it. And that creates an interesting fruity, but at the same time green and sort of a very aquatic feeling fragrance. In the first couple of hours it smells very interesting, then on the later dry down you're pretty much left only with the scent of Atlas, but that's to be expected. Another interesting combination that I've tried, including Vulcan Few, was combining it with Oud Madness. And that way you create a leathery, agar oudi fragrance with a bit of a floral touch that has even more fruitiness than Oud Madness has on its own, and adds an additional type and type of fruity sweetness in the opening. So that's another very interesting combination, that in the opening smells leathery, smells floral, smells with a bit of smells like a bit of having agar oud, but at the same time it smells quite fresh and quite fruitier than Oud Madness on itself. And then on the deeper dry down, of course, you're left with that agar oud and leather combo that Oud Madness has. And another interesting combination that I've tried is combining something with agar oud in it, like Oud Wonder for example, and something fresh that has citruses, that has freshness, that has greenness. Again, that way you're adding an additional layer on top of the more serious, the more woody fragrance, in this case Oud Wonder and Platinum Blanc for example. I've been trying this combination, it also seems to be quite nice. These are just a few very quick examples of layering combinations that I've been playing around with. But another main point of today's video is that I want to hear your suggestions, your layering combinations, combinations that you've tried and that really work nicely for you. I really want to hear what you have been experimenting with. So please use the comment section down below today's video to let me know of some of your nice working layering combinations. One thing that I wanted to add though is that please share some of the layering combinations using Middle Eastern fragrances, because that's the most part of my collection. I really want to try some of your layering combinations. I want to try them, I want to see how they work for me, and probably in a future video I'm going to show you some of those layering combinations that you have suggested to me, and I'm going to talk about them in a separate video. So again, please use the comment section below this video to let me know of your layering combinations. And with all that, I'm going to end today's video, where I talked about what is fragrance layering, why you should do it, how you should do it. I gave you a few quick examples of some of the combinations that I've tried and work nicely for me. I hope that you found today's video interesting. If you did, give it a like. And I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one for your dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.